All right, hello wine drinking people. And then what I drank yesterday, part of the show. And this is a tasting that I put on, well, as soon as I got the 59, I put it on the schedule. And 59 is a great old vintage, one of the greatest Latours that I've ever had. And I was very nervous opening up the bottles yesterday. You know, the Latour I opened up at the restaurant, everything else I opened up here, other than the stuff that the two individuals brought, that brought their own wine. And I don't know how lucky we are here in Wine Watch, but 10 good bottles of wine is sheer luck, because usually when you open up that many wines, you're going to get something that's off or just not right. And I thought we got 10 really good examples of what they should have been last night. Chateau Latour, one of the great growths of the Medoc, Pauillac, 3 of the 5 first growths located there. And, you know, it's all about the dirt, folks. You know, those egg-sized pebbles that most of Chateau Latour's vineyard are made up of, and the proximity to the river. You know, one of the things that all the great chateaus of Bordeaux have, well, the 3 in Pauillac anyways, and that's one of the things that helps regulate the temperatures. And like I said, the dirt being one of the most important things about making great wines. This is, you know, the terroir that's been recognized for hundreds of years, even though they didn't classify the terroir in 1855. Chateau Latour really hasn't changed that much since then. You know, we're going through 3 different eras of winemaking, kind of. You know, the old wines, the 59, the 66, and the 70. These were kind of made at the seat of the pants. What I mean, well, they knew what they were doing, but, you know, the weather conditions there, after the harvest, they couldn't control the temperature of fermentation, and they didn't do triage at that time. There wasn't any sorting. Okay, that's the first period of Chateau Latour that we drank, and then we had the wines from the 80s, which, you know, you're starting to see some technology come into play here, 82 and 89, 89 being a very warm vintage, and most people that didn't have temperature control fermentation still at that time. And then we have the, you know, the current generation. Francois Pinot bought the winery in 1993, and Frederic Engineers was, I believe, in charge by 96, but I know in the late 90s he started there. And, you know, one of the reasons why Chateau Latour has been a candidate for wine of the vintage almost every single year since then. 96, a blockbuster vintage. 2000, a blockbuster vintage. And like I said, the current, you know, era where they had temperature controlled fermentation, all the advances that we've made in enology, you know, you're seeing these wines very consistent year in and year out. We're going to start going through the wines as the young dogs first. Well, we had a beautiful white Bordeaux. A lot of people don't realize they make some of the greatest white wines in the world in Bordeaux. 2000 Pop Clement, exotic tropical fruit here on the nose, quince, melon, green fig, and some gravelly nuance as well, some floral notes. This wine's drinking beautifully now. 2000, a great vintage for reds, but a lot of times the conditions very different for white wines, and the whites were very good in 2000, though maybe not as good as 2001, but I think a really outstanding vintage. And this wine still has wonderful freshness. Seems like it still has some years to go. Some cocoa spice showing up on the finish there. 2006 Latour, the youngest wine. Well, you really notice you know, the oak in these wines, the pencil lead, the graphite, the minerality in them, and you know, lovely fruit. 2006, a very forward vintage. They only made 10,000 cases of the first wine, Chateau Latour. They make 3 wines at Chateau Latour, Lafort de Latour, and a wine they simply just call Pauillac. And, you know, they could make as much Chateau Latour as they can bottle and sell, but, you know, they have a very high standard here in Bordeaux, and these great growths of Medoc, you know, still hold to that. And even though they have a demand for much more than they could sell, 10,000 cases is all they could make under the Chateau Latour label, and feel confident that this wine was quality of the quality level that people are going to expect when they get it. Like I said, very forward and fruity wine, fine tannins, and that gravelly kind of graphite note showing it on the finish, but lovely freshness, and not the biggest young Latour that I've ever had, but still quite large in size, quite Latour-like. This 2006 most excellent juice. The 2001 had a slight musty note to the nose, but kind of blew off. So, you know, if a wine's corked, that musty note kind of grows and grows and grows. Had this lovely smoky, toasty oak note, kind of black earth, espresso, coffee, graphite showing there. Very classic vintage 2001, a vintage that to me is drunk evenly its whole entire life. And, you know, I really like 2001, a great vintage for sweet wines, but I mean, I think also very good and a great value for the reds of the Medoc. Is this wine smooth and polished on the palate, a lovely core of black currant and berry fruit, and a cooler, more classic style vintage, as I mentioned before, but really creeps up on you at the end in terms of concentration, and really most excellent juice, the 2001 Latour. 2000 Latour is a blockbuster. You know, lots of bouquet here, cassis, currants, dark, damp earth, coffee, a cocoa, tobacco spice, plump and ripe on the palate. Tannin's still quite firm, though, and chunky with layers of fruit and spice. Very balanced wine, this 2000 vintage. Drinks nicely today, but you can just tell this wine will go another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. All right. Excellent juice. Killer juice, I'm sorry. And I have killer on my scorecard here several times this evening. The 96, another killer wine. This wine had some black earth and graphite and kind of peppery spice to the currant and black plum fruit. Hints of olive tapenade, really exotic nose. Wonderful complexity there. And a huge wine on the palate. Still very young, showing a lot of density and complexity and, some tannins to resolve also. This wine nowhere near ready to drink. That toasty oak spice still evident. And this is one for your grandkids, folks, the 1996. 1990, 89, which is a very good vintage, a hot year. These wines very charming. Always when I taste 89s, even right out of the bottle, they don't need a lot of time to open up. Cigar box spice, a little mint, cocoa, red currants, and a really lovely bouquet of aroma here. And if you could fault this wine, it would just be that maybe, it seems a little light and a little short on the palate, but it has all the nuance of Latour. And, still could probably go another 10, 20, 30 years in the cellar. Excellent juice. The 82s were blockbusters here. When we asked people at the end of the night what their favorite wine was, I said, if you don't have the 82, one of them, on your scorecard, you people are just wrong. All right? And hey, I know you're not wrong with wine, but I mean, you're wrong this time. The 82s were amazing, both of them. The Mouton kind of edged out the Latour for me at the end of the night. A host of earth and espresso, dark cocoa, menthol, just incredible nuance. Cigar wrapper, very aromatic, and really starting to drink nice, these 82s. But you can just tell these wines are behemoths. They are massive. They are going to need, they could last, my lifetime, my kids' lifetime, and my grandkids may be able to enjoy the 82s when they're old enough to drink. Just stunning stuff. Like I said, the 82 Mouton just seemed to have a little bit more on the finish. The Latour, even though, you usually think of Latour as the powerhouse, and this wine had a lot of power in it. Some spice, dried sausage, kind of meaty note, dark cocoa, really lovely earthy component to that. Some of the graphite showing through, and, a huge wine on the palate. Everyone was mixed. The whole group was mixed on which one was better, the 82 Latour or the Mouton. Both killer wines. The 70 Chateau Latour, I've had this one a couple times. We had it our Chateau Latour vertical earlier in the year, and a really lovely, elegant style of Latour, a lovely earthy bouquet, still a little graphite showing there, and some dried tobacco to the red plum and currant berry fruit. Wow, just smooth and silky on the tongue. This wine drinking at or near its peak right now, and it seemed even a little lighter than the 1966, which is a little older, but lovely nuance on the finish. Excellent juice, this 1970. 1966, a little bit reserved at first, but really opened up the whole entire night, and at the end of the night, I think edged out the 1970 for me, and really approached the 1959 in terms of quality. Really classic Latour, wonderful balance, silky tannins, excellent freshness, and some of the graphite minerality showing there on the finish. And it just seemed to get better and better as the night went on, as I mentioned before. Most excellent juice, this 66. And then the 59, wow, I had this killer, and I changed it back to most excellent, and back to killer, and I give it a most excellent plus. Camphor cigar box spice shown on the nose. Maybe not the best 59 Latour that I've had. I've had it a couple times, but damn good. Not showing very much oxidation at all on the nose. We had a really, nice fill on this bottle. And as it opened up, some lovely red cherry fruit, just like satin on your tongue. Really smooth. And, you could probably keep this wine, 20 more years if you have a nice cellar, but you know what? I would drink these 59s now. They are so good. You do not want to miss one more day on this earth without trying a 59 Bordeaux. If you got one in your cellar, open it up tonight. Outstanding. All right, then, two vintages of Chateau Latour for dessert. 1996 and 2000, and both were great vintages in Bordeaux, but the sweet wines, very different conditions in making sweet wines. There was not a lot of botrytis in either one of these wines. One of the things that makes the Great Sauternes very interesting. The 96, a little sweeter, had a hint of that honey, kind of caramel corn, and more raisin grape kind of notes, a little creme caramel, pineapple, Jolly Rancher fruits, and a little hint of anise there, but big and chunky, and didn't have quite the freshness that the 2000 did. The 2000, a little lighter maybe in terms of sweetness, had that lovely peach, pineapple, coconuts, really tropical bouquet, a hint of orange peel, and then just a little lighter and a little fresher on the finish. All right, well, that's what I had to drink last night at the Chateau Latour vertical tasting, folks. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.